It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week, we're taking a look at all these juicy Cinemacon reveals. Because nothing brings out the weirdest news and the most unexpected announcements like a good Cinemacon. So we've got Deadpool and Wolverine. We've got Superman. We've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Mike, we have not had a good section on them in a long time for you. So this one's even more up your alley than usual. We've got Transformers. We've got G.I. Joe. I'm going to think with Star Trek and more coming to today's episode.
It's always an interesting podcast when G.I. Joe makes it into the opening intro of our podcast.
Right.
So looking forward to see what you have in the G.I. Joe realm.
That's
for
right.
us. Speaking of G.I. Joe, though, and bringing it back to action figures, which, always brings it back to our childhood. The Instagram algorithm has started targeting me with like vintage 90s action figure boxes. And obviously we love retro. We love nostalgia. You were just talking yourself, Chris, before we started recording about how you want to bathe your basement in the
wood panel,
warm
just,
in the warm orange wood of the 90s.
Right.
And I'm starting to see like these like Batman and Spider-Man like action figures from the cartoon show back in the day. And I saw a Batman this morning. It was called Lightning Strike Batman. And I forgot how cool this action figure was because I had it. And when I look at it, I can like literally feel it. It's like a plastic tape shell that goes around Batman, and then you can open it up and turn it into a glider. It was so cool, and it was so nice to like visually see it again. It's like seeing a picture of an old friend, and it's just like, oh, I remember this. And then not only like do I see it, but like it's like my fingertips can remember feeling it and opening up the glider, and it's just like, oh, this is how they get our money. This is why they're like this is why they're taking those molds out of like storage and they're like remaking these action figures and putting them next to like the DVD section in the back of Target. They haven't made it to Lightning Strike Batman yet, but if they did, I'd probably be buying it.
Yeah, and a lot of companies are picking up cheap licenses to reproduce some of those toys very similar to that, but like cheaper, if you will, and that's not fun. But what I sent you, Mike, it's funny you mentioned this. I was in Target the other day, and I literally came across a Jurassic Park box set of Dr. Ian Malcolm, a Dilophosaurus, and a baby Triceratops, which are, again, remolds of the 93 toy releases they had, which my brother and I had almost all of the Jurassic Park toys.
Oh my God. I'm looking at this now. The box art is just hilarious. Like, could you imagine if this what the movie actually was?
Yeah, so it's kind of regular
Jeff
Dilophosaurus and a Triceratops, but Jeff Goldblum isn't a glider with a electric bolt shooting gun at the Dilophosaurus.
I mean, it looks like he's shooting a rocket. I don't know exactly what, like, and it looks like it could easily veer off and hit that baby dinosaur in the background. But it is funny. It looks like it's been marked on clearance, like 2 times in a row.
It's on the clearance, and this was like as you can see, it's in the Transformer section. So someone I think has maybe hidden this and like moved it, and then that's finally found its way back to the front of all the toys, because I've never seen these 93 classics, because had I seen them, I didn't buy this one, but God help me, my finger was on that trigger to buy this. Instead, I bought a Transformer. I actually bought a Beast War that was next to it. I hadn't seen anywhere else. So, thank God for Beast Wars returning as well, because I told you recently, was it Beast Wars redid their the anniversary packaging? It had like that dinosaur scale and that dinosaur eye on the packaging. Do you remember those for the Beast Wars? So, yeah. So all of mine still have that packaging, but it's absolutely crazy. 30 years on from the 90s, that they're redoing all these toys. I've seen a lot of Turtles toys that, I think I sent you a photo of one where you push the pizza through the turtle and it comes out like their stomach or whatever. It's like a pizza firing one. So, and I remember those from the 90s. So it's just wild. I agree with you. It is absolutely wild. They're tagging on that nostalgia for all these toys.
Yeah, it's like a tax on being a millennial. All you want is the simpler times back. I desperately want this very specific Gundam Wing figure, not model kit. I'm not building anything. I'm not painting anything. It's an action figure. And it's like I found out there's like a higher end like action figure series called like the Robot Spirits, and it's this Black Ares action figure, and it's so cool. But I cannot get myself to pull the trigger on this thing because it's regularly like $70 to $90, and it's just like a 6-inch figure. This isn't like some sort of like big kind of like Hot Toys like sideshow collectible thing. So I keep my eye on it, and I have a feeling it's an affordable price. Like if you're in Japan and you can just walk into a store and get one. So the millennial tax has not quite hit me on this one, but it could happen any day, Chris. I understand your feeling.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just one of those things. I wish I could have bought these things when I was younger. Now I'm an adult and have the money to do so. So guess what? I will buy myself those toys in this moment. One of the things, actually, before we swap topics here, do you remember the Power Rangers that could flip their heads? Like they were unmasked and then they flipped their heads.
Heck yeah. Yes.
My grandfather would bought a whole set for us grandkids, and I remember playing with those and combining their weapons together to make the super ultra power weapon or whatever they had. So I love some original Power Rangers toys through and through. Whenever I see them, I'm like, oh man, that's fantastic. We also had a bunch of wrestling figures, which is a good segue into our next topic, even though,
yes.
we want to talk about things that were big in the 90s wrestling. Last weekend was WrestleMania. I don't remember what number it was. I cannot tell you what number it was, but it was WrestleMania 2024.
I honestly didn't know they were numbered. I thought they just kind of like happened yearly, but I guess the Super Bowl's numbered, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it was like 40. I think it's like their yearly event. Yeah, it was WrestleMania 40. I knew it was a nice even number. But apparently these wrestling stories, they bring a lot of players in, and at the WrestleMania last weekend they had what I've seen called their in-game moment, their Avengers in-game moment, where at the end of it there's a wrestling match between a guy named Cody Rhodes and another one named Roman Reigns, he was an actor. If you watch the Fast spinoff with The Rock in it and Jason Statham, what was that one where they went to The Rock's family, his hometown?
Oh God, Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah,
Hobbs and Shaw. So he was in there, but at the end of this, they bring in John Cena shows up out of nowhere, who hasn't been in wrestling in forever. He's been doing his Barbie stint, was it Ricky Stanicky? Is that how you pronounce it? The movie? He's doing all these other fun stuff, shows up. He has to, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, The Rock shows up, Mike. The Rock himself. He calls himself the final boss of wrestling. And they have a standoff. So you have literally Black Adam and Peacemaker here in the ring. And then at the end of this, a wrestler from our era, The Undertaker, shows up and takes down The Rock, Mike, out of nowhere. Can you imagine being in the crowd and all of a sudden all these unannounced people who as like large wrestling names and actors show up and are just doing things out of nowhere?
Yeah, and it's like, this moment also was big enough to where I was seeing people like their reactions filmed like just show up organically in my social feeds. So this kind of broke through just that kind of wrestling firewall and made it to like just like the common knowledge of the internet. It was pretty wild. Like I never really got into wrestling as a kid, but every kid back in our day was in wrestling even just a little bit. So even though I wasn't into it, I kind of had to be into it no matter what.
Yeah, ancillary at least.
So I had kind of just forgotten how much showmanship is actually in the show, because when you're playing like the video game, which I think is what a lot of our generation migrated over to, is just playing the game, probably more hours than actually watching wrestling. It just kind of becomes in like a Street Fighter type game, and you forget that there's even like a TV show based around it.
That or like a Tony Hawk, right? You're trying to get the most points, you're trying to do the most moves, kind of thing. Like it becomes
exactly.
like you're just hitting the buttons. You're not really paying attention to quote unquote the storylines of the characters.
Yeah, and you sent me this clip, and we were just on the couch watching something, so I pulled it up on my phone and I was like, oh wow, this is getting crazy. And as soon as the clip was over, like I paused whatever we were watching, I airplayed it to the TV because I knew my wife had a fan nostalgia for The Undertaker. I was like, she's gonna love this. And I'm sure it's classic for like that kind of like bell to
Toll.
sound
Yeah.
before the lights go black, and then he shows up, and then when it goes back off, like they've disappeared, like he's literally taken them to the underworld.
Yeah.
Like that is the type of stuff that when you're a kid, there is like a non-0% possibility in your head that you think that actually happened. Like, oh, he actually took the Rock to hell. Like,
Yeah.
I he's not going to be in any more Fast and Furious movies because he's gone forever, and they just filmed it live on TV. I can't believe this actually happened. So seeing that moment now as an adult, like it actually, like we're on the whole theme of nostalgia. It was actually kind of great. I loved it. My wife had a good time watching the clip, but as far as us, that's all it was. It was just a clip we saw on social media, but it sounds like a ton of other people had fun.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, I know it's kind of wrestling's been coming back, if you will, like, you know, it ebbs and flows, it's in waves, so I know it's been coming back, but, you know, I think it was like maybe Monday or something, like I think John Cena and The Rock are like, yeah, we're not doing wrestling for a little bit now, like they came back for like a moment, you know, a couple weeks, and then now they're back off doing movie stuff again, right? Like we knew they're not going to go back to wrestling permanently, but to have that draw and to hit all those checkpoints and to have this big quote unquote crossover with these large names, I get the excitement of the people who do love this and watch this regularly. I was like, I get it. I envy you to be able to have this moment and the payoff after all these months or years or however long it's been for them. So, absolutely awesome. I thought that was really fun, and I had to share it with you because I'm like you're my litmus for this, right? Because we both don't watch wrestling, but I'm like, if I think this is pretty cool and I got like a stupid grin on my face, maybe Mike will too. So I'm glad to do it. So awesome. And then we have some other stuff we're going to talk about next week, but Mike, you looks like you've been diving into a movie and a show yourself here.
Yeah, this is what happens when a brand new show lands on Amazon Prime, and it reminds you have an Amazon Prime subscription.
Hey.
So Chris and I are gonna hopefully review Fallout in full next week.
The show, not the games. I've played the games.
Yes.
Mike doesn't have enough time to play the games.
Yeah, which is going to be really helpful because Chris is going to have some more context that he can lay on me. So we're going to talk all Fallout all next week. But in the meantime, my Amazon Prime app is opened. I've been slowly working my way through the second season of Invincible, which is great. I don't know why I keep forgetting that Invincible is good, but every time I put it back on, I'm reminded, oh, wow, this is really, really good. But then I'm in the Amazon Prime app, so we're looking for a funny movie to watch last night, and there's a film on there called Bottoms, which I've heard of before, but we decided to check it out. And essentially, it's like Booksmart meets Fight Club. Throw in with a little bit of like satirical comedy on top of that. It's just really, really funny. It's stupid. It's hilarious. It's just about these two girls that start a fight club at their school so they can hook up with some other girls. It's really, really funny. A quick watch. The movie felt like it was like 90 minutes. So you're in and out. It's hilarious. There's this really funny part at the end of the movie where there's like this football scene, and they're building up to this big football game. And I literally think the movie didn't have enough budget to fill out the other end of the field, like the visitors team stands. So they're totally empty. So I think they just worked it into the script and they turned it into a joke. And it was really, really funny. So the movie just feels like really scrappy. Marshawn Lynch is in it. He's kind of like a supporting name, I think, to kind of put on the poster, but he's pretty funny in it as well. So I could highly recommend Bottoms.
And that stars Ayo Edebiri, right, from The Bear, and she voiced April O'Neil in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Ninja as well. So
that's true. Her career is skyrocketing right now. So she is on the trajectory to hit the dartboard of a superhero movie at some point in time. Like that is, I feel like, gonna happen.
Well, she was hired in Thunderbolts, but due to it being delayed, and rescheduling.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She had to back out of that. But I mean, obviously those people who rescheduled, they're probably going to come back in another movie. So I wouldn't count her out either, right? In that situation, so it's just everything got rescheduled. Everybody's making new stuff. So I agree with you. She will be in one of these films sooner than later.
It's great. But also, while you have your Amazon Prime open, we just started watching the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith TV show. It's kind of, I don't know exactly how heavily it's influenced by the Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie movie. I think it's just kind of more just lifting the concept of two spies that are pretending to be husband and wife, which really isn't a wholly original idea. It's like something, that literally happened like with Russian spies, if you've seen like The Americans on FX.
I think it just borrows it in name only, because the difference is that they already know each other are spies in this one, right out the gate. So
that's right, because in the movie they didn't know.
Then they became each other's they became each other's like target.
That's right. It's been a minute since I've watched it,
and that's not a spoiler. That's just how the show sets up, and it's been out 2 months now, so they know each other are spies, and that I think that adds a dynamic to it. I've not watched it. I actually accidentally listened to a review of it, which again it sounds like you enjoyed it, so I'm gonna say at least they enjoyed it. So that's I stumbled across something else I was listening to, so absolutely.
Yeah, we're a couple episodes in, and it's kind of fun watching Donald Glover. I haven't seen him in a while in something, because he's just like this multi-hyphenate that's working on 1,000 things. So like sometimes it's music, sometimes it's directing, sometimes he's acting. So it's just kind of nice to see him again. So overall, just remember to open up your Amazon Prime Video, because you're probably paying for it already and don't know it.
You've got me thinking here, because a couple months ago, Amazon announced they're doing ads. You have to watch ads to watch Prime now. Are you on the ad-free version yet? Because you forget about it. I assume you're not on the ad-free version.
The nice thing is I think they are taking that into account whenever they're kind of airing these like big kind of movie specials, or their big streaming series, because we had commercials in front of our Fallout episodes, but nothing ever interrupted in the middle. It was just like 30 seconds in the front and 30 seconds in the front of the next one. So seems like they're being cautious of where those go if you're actually paying. But it was interesting. I was Googling the Fallout show earlier today, and I landed on kind of like the Amazon homepage, and I think you can watch it absolutely for free, because it had like the Freevee logo on it. So even if like you're not an Amazon Prime subscriber, which I can't think I could throw a rock in a stadium of people and hit somebody that doesn't have Amazon Prime, but you could watch it on Freevee. It seems like for free.
Yeah, I was looking. Sometimes they do these first episodes on YouTube for free, like the hook you in for the first one free, because they have a lot of faith in this show, and that's that's awesome. That's great. That means they really are diving in. So I've not seen it on YouTube, but it's probably, I would guarantee that probably that first one's free then along the way. So. I'm excited to talk about next week. Like I said, it's just like I was telling Mike, it's just been one of those weekends where nothing has gone to schedule to plan. And as some people may know, I travel for work twice a year, and this is that week as well coming up. So I am just up to my eyeballs and stuff. So I'm jealous of all this stuff you gotta watch along the way. But I am gonna dive in our news, because I'm not jealous, Mike. I'm upset at myself for not knowing this. Coca Cola announced a collaboration with Marvel this week, or maybe the week before. So you can go buy Marvel designated Coca-Cola cans, and Coke and Diet Coke, or Coke Zero variety, and they have different characters on them. There's a trailer that came with this, Mike, and I don't know if you've watched this trailer or not. This is an absolutely amazing piece of commercial.
I'm watching it right now, and it is really funny. I don't know if it's just because I'm conflating the colors of the two brands together, but Marvel right now really does feel like the Coca-Cola, and DC really feels like the Pepsi, and they're very color aligned between their blues and reds, but I think also in popularity and ubiquitous. It's this makes sense. This pairing is understandable.
In this trailer, it's like it's all about getting the Coke to one of the characters in there, and the people, they're in the comic books where the comic book characters come to life, and when they animate them off the page, they look like they're off the comic book page. So when they're moving and interacting with the environment around them, like there's a Daredevil who looks like he's in watercolor, if you will. There's a couple others throughout. We get to see a cheeky Deadpool, Colossus. It's a really fun trailer. I recommend anyone watch it, even if you're not going to buy these, if you're not going to drink the Cokes. Watch this trailer to see what they could do with comic book art, Mike, if they ever wanted to animate that in a unique style. similar. I would say it's not similar to Miles Spider-Verse movies or TMNT, but it is unique in and of itself, and that goes a lot to show how much love they put in here. And then also, I've got a list of the characters on cans and bottles. On Coke, we have Blade, Cable, Colossus, Daredevil, Deadpool, Elektra, Juggernaut, Kingpin, Loki, Moon Knight, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead. Interesting choice. Wolverine, Nick Fury, Storm, Super Skrull, and War Machine. On Coke Zero, we have Ant-Man, Black Panther, Black Widow, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Groot, Hulk, Iron Man, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Rocket, Scarlet Witch, Shang-Chi, Star-Lord, Thanos, and Thor. You're going to find Team Coke versus Team Coke Zero fans all throughout this. I think Coke Zero has the best list, but my warning for you Mike, is I bought a 24 pack of Coke Zero because I drink Coke Zero in a house. We keep it for our guests. We put it in our storage unit when we're not going through it. Don't think we're going through it that fast. Believe me. All the cans were one character, Mike. I've been had, and I'm so upset at this.
So when I was at the store the other day, I spotted these 12 packs, and they had the character, at least on the box. Does the character on the box equate to the cans on the inside?
No, because there's multiple characters on the box when you go and look at the box through and through.
Okay.
I bought the 24 of Coke Zero thinking they were all different. I'm going to just get a bunch of them. My wife bought regular Coke, a 12 pack, to help me out. And when we opened hers was all, I think, Daredevil. So when you buy a case, you have to get them all. So now I'm upset thinking I've got to go trade Coke cans with people to get the whole set. And
yeah, because otherwise you'd have to buy at the very minimum 30 30 cases of Coke.
They do sell them, I think, in glass bottles online. I think glass bottles would be interesting. My desire to collect one of each really died very quickly after I opened that first case of complete Iron Mans, if you will. So I'm just kind of bummed out in that regard. What is cool though, and I will say this: if you have they have an AR app for this, and when you put the cans and scan the cans like when they're together, they do some cool animations and artwork and stuff that comes off the cans when you do this. So they're actually not just collector pieces; they actually have a little interactive functionality as well with the AR stuff, and you can win prizes and stuff in that app. And I thought that was cool, but I'm just so mad they didn't mix and match the cases, Mike. Like, you know how big we are on food stuff and drink stuff. I thought this would be like right up our alley, but kick in the face. But yeah, if you let me know. Please let me know if you'll trade me any of them. I will hold you an Iron Man and a Daredevil wholeheartedly if you want to trade something for me. So, but yeah. Keep moving on. This is not Cinemacon. This is outside of Cinemacon. Mike, they didn't talk Fantastic Four there, so we're going to jump into it first. And Kevin Feige confirmed Fantastic Four will be shot entirely in IMAX format, which is cool. That's a great announcement for this movie, to be done in IMAX and have the format all the way. There will be no... there will probably be scenes where it jumps back and forth between frame rates, but to film it all in IMAX, it's going to be a different experience overall, right? I think that's cool.
Yeah, I feel like, if anything, that's more of a signal to the audience and just Hollywood in general that, like, this is a big deal. We need to remind people that when Marvel movies come out, they are supposed to be very big deals. So this is cool. I don't necessarily need a Marvel movie shot entirely in IMAX, but this is a good signifier to be like, hey, don't forget that we make awesome stuff that you want to see on the biggest screen.
And that's a partnership with IMAX as well to do that. So that's even, I think, a bigger sign, right? They're not retrofitting it to IMAX. They don't have a couple IMAX scenes. They're working with IMAX to secure those release dates and get these in the theaters early on that have IMAX. I will probably not watch this in IMAX because the theater that has IMAX is the, pardon my French, shittiest theater in town. They've not updated their seats. They've not done anything. And I just hate it. So
yeah, that really is a bummer. Like, if you want to indulge in IMAX, it's very specific to your region, like what is closest to you. I mean, I'm not trying to complain. I live in Los Angeles, so I have access to some pretty decent IMAX screens, but it's either like a hassle to get to them. Like, the most convenient theater is always the one closest to you, right? So, and the closest IMAX to me, like, that's where I saw Avatar: Way of Water, and like there is absolutely no way to get out of your seat once the movie starts going. Like everyone to the left or right of you has to stand up in order for you to go use the restroom.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly like running to go see things
Yeah.
in IMAX just due to the convenience factor. So
On that asterisk, though, if you happen to be pausing your Amazon Prime app and switch back over to your Disney Plus app, you can at least turn on IMAX at home to get that full frame, so you don't have black bars, which I think is cool. That's where I'm really into.
I gotta borrow somebody's Apple Vision Pro, and then I can really take in the aspect ratio.
Jesus, no, don't do that. Don't do any of that stuff. Just use it on your Disney Plus app. Just turn it on IMAX or select the IMAX versions. And Mike, you know me, I keep a library of movies myself that I can access, and I actually have an IMAX library that I don't share with anybody else because they're in 4K versions. So I do keep the IMAX versions because I think it's cool to take up the whole screen when you have that. Also in the Fantastic Four, there's a rumor from scoopers out there that Franklin Richards, the son of Reed and Sue, will have a connection to Galactus in this movie. And we've already talked about possibly being an alternate universe, right, with the artwork last week and the Shia LaBeouf Fantastic Four. Earth X was where Franklin Richards actually became Galactus in the future of that universe. Now, I don't think it's going to be Earth X exactly. They may be pulling some inspiration, which is great. But in the Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run in the Marvel 616, probably 15 years ago now, there was a version of Franklin Richards who came back from the future, who came back to this timeline, and he is powerful enough to actually have Galactus be his herald instead of the other way around, which is an interesting spec where you can just control a Galactus at your whim. Kind of thing. So I'm interested to see how they do this. Again, these are all rumors. We don't know anything. They're excited to get it filming, but I'm glad they're kind of, again, taking the snow globe of Fantastic Four. We've seen Galactus, we've seen Doctor Doom, we've seen the Fantastic Four. Shake it up a bit, give us something different before, you have your big team ups in Secret Wars along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm cool with it. I'm really excited. I can also not recommend Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run enough if you want to have some good solid Fantastic Four comic books in your life. So check those out. Cinemacon 2024, one of the weirdest conventions to date, Mike. And I only say this because it's for cinema owners to go to, and they're like all the movie theaters are there to say, hey, we support you as a cinema, right? We get most of our money from you showing our movie in your theaters. So this is a lot of industry people for the cinema owners or people who are making merchandise. So we have some merchandise notes in here along the way. Something I couldn't find a bullet point for, the AMC theaters, I think head of AMC theaters, or maybe it's marketing, said the Dune popcorn bucket would not have been made if they had known the reaction was going to be like it was to that popcorn bucket. He was like, you sick online perverts have ruined this, but we sold a bunch of them, so we'll probably do it again.
Yeah, that's like the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
And also that means nobody has any sort of insight into human nature over at AMC. Like you can't look at this and make a determination. Yeah,
so AMC didn't make it. There's another company that made it, and they're actually, I think the company we have it below for Superman, but that the company who made it, I don't think they probably had any inclination of they didn't have hey, we're gonna make this viral, hey, we're gonna make this on TikTok. They probably just made something and then it just kind of blew up, and now they're I feel like they're gonna rest on their laurels a bit, and we're gonna see a lot of the samey stuff, and that's gonna be the disappointing factor in all this. I'm nobody wants an actually gross, perverse popcorn vessel, man. You just got lucky it was a dune worm. Make something creative for us.
I'm gonna have to tell my kid. Back in the day, we didn't have these sophisticated injection molded plastic forms that you could display on your shelf after the movie was over. We had a thin tin bucket at best that maybe had a holographic label on it. And that's about as far as it went.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to order on Amazon some of those really cheap paper popcorn bags that they serve at high school concessions, and put those in a time capsule for you and your future child, Mike, so we can open those.
Yeah, there you go.
And be do you remember when things were just paper and we just threw them away because here's 1,000 of them. So the Doom popcorn bucket did come up there because obviously it did take off like a wildfire earlier this year. But let's get into the superhero movie news here. And the first is we're going to have with Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is filming, right? We talked about this with Florence Pugh's video on set the other day. And Kevin Feige has said that the asterisk in the name is actually there. They showed the title card. And it will be revealed in the movie. So they will not talk about the asterisk until the movie comes out. That's
wait.
Cool.
So are they saying like when they print like the action figures or the popcorn bucket, the label is gonna say Thunderbolts with an asterisk on it, and then the asterisk is gonna be like a joke in the movie?
That is, I don't know if it's a joke or if it's just like a reference to something else like in there. But yes, it will have the asterisk. I'm trying to pull up the image using Google image search time within the past week and see what I can pull. Yeah, so I'm actually going to send you this this image, Mike, so you can see that it is in there. It's not even like a normal, like it's like an asterisk in the upright, like a footnote kind of thing. So I guess they're not gonna retitle it or give it a subtitle. Like I'm curious what the reasoning is, and
it makes me if I just had to make a Marvel guess, a humor maybe point in the movie is maybe they're all being recruited. They have to sign like a form or something. And then it says like, oh, you will sign here to acknowledge that you'll formally be joining the team known as like the Thunderbolts. And there's an asterisk and somebody goes like, what's this asterisk mean? And then somebody makes a joke and then they're look at all the way at the bottom of the form and the asterisk says like, I don't know, something. But that would be my guess. I just don't know why it would be there otherwise.
Well, I've heard it's kind of a heavier movie, but I would understand if that was like maybe a comedy movie. But the rumor is, and this is going to kind of tie into our next point here, that it could be more of a dark Avengers setup, where General Ross, who is now the president, I guess President Ross in the upcoming Captain America: Brave New World, is trying to create his own Avengers, and he probably can't use Avengers, or he's going to use Avengers, but like after this movie, at the end of it, you'll find out that they were recruited into, I guess, his Avengers or something like that. Maybe, maybe it's like the President Ross, you're signing the Thunderbolts asterisk. Thunderbolts is a copyright owned by General Thunderbolt Ross, and you now work for him, kind of deal, maybe. So,
well, yeah, there's something that could be there. I do like the idea, though, of maybe a governmental organization trying to co-opt the word Avengers, and then there's like there's Stark Industry like lawyers that show up, and they're just like, no, we own this copyright.
A bunch of prepaid people, like holding that down, kind of deal. Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm excited for Thunderbolts. Obviously, it's coming out May 5th, 2025. So we're a little almost 2 years. No, we're a year away. Shoot, that is sooner than I thought it was. I forget how close we are to Thunderbolts. So the fact it's in the May slot's pretty good. I'm excited to see this and hopefully get some more costume images later. We don't have them now, but I would love to see some of the characters in their new costumes, because as we know, in every superhero movie, they get minor alterations along the way, and I'd love to check those out. Next up is Captain America: Brave New World. Mike, this movie is undergoing or possibly has undergone extensive reshoots after the Marvel Studios retooling 6 to 8 months ago now, I guess, in the last summer. But some new images. They showed off some clips from the movie. And one of them, he's General Ross, now played by President Ross, played by Harrison Ford, is telling Anthony Mackie he's like he wants to rebuild the Avengers, in that regard. This image is interesting. Looking at this, we get a picture of Harrison Ford across from Anthony Mackie in his dark blue Captain America suit. We've gone from the white back to the Winter Soldier look. When I went and looked at there's a set photo, behind the scenes set photo of these two on set. Harrison Ford's hair is not cut like that in that set. So I don't know if maybe they cut his hair in the reshoots to do that. And then Anthony Mackie's arm plates are not metallic. They look more rubber. Now that could be for filming to make them light and keep them metallic in the shots here. But not a lot to pull out of this, but I am excited to see the first trailer for this, to get some word on those changes, what they were, and what we can expect in this movie along the way.
Yeah, I mean, these are all great questions, because we kind of know that this movie is unique compared to any other kind of Marvel movie to come out, that this has seen the most like extensive like retooling, right? I mean, we'll obviously never know entirely what happens, behind the veil over there at Marvel Studios. But it came out, it seemed like from the reports that people weren't digging it, and that historically is not something that they faced a lot. And we know Feige has kind of been praised as the guy that can like save a movie, you know, in post-production in the editing room. And the fact that that seems like it couldn't be done and they had to go back at it, you know, always remind people, Chris, on this show that reshoots are always in the budget. They're already they're always scheduled and ready to go, but this has kind of elevated past just normal reshoot. So I am curious how this changes, you know.
To your point, I would say two things. Number one, your first thing about audience, you know, I think the reaction was middled. And you can't have middle anymore, right? You can't do just okay content because that's not what people expect. That's not what drives people to the theaters. You need to bring your A game. You know, B pluses probably won't even cut it, Mike. You need at least an A- to get people in theaters. So
you don't even need to sneak into the boardroom at Disney. Bob Iger has publicly announced pretty much at every chance he can to people that like we are going to return to quality with our studio movies. So he's saying the quiet part out loud. You know, we don't have to like hide the fact that they're trying to make these movies better. And like you said, Chris, they can't afford middling. They need great box office successes every time they go to the mat.
Right. And if the test viewers are just middle of the road, that's not good, right? You want them to leave excited or at least having some sort of feelings towards it. I would say the other thing against, you know, you mentioned Kevin Feige fixing things in post. I think he is fixing it in post. The post is just a lot longer than we anticipated, right? Like,
the post includes turning the camera back.
Yeah, and this movie did come out of the other Bob era of movies, right? Yeah, this was a Chapek announced movie. It fed out of the show Captain America, or not Captain America, Falcon and Winter Soldier. You know, kind of leads into this a little bit. So like it comes out of that era. So much like Daredevil Born Again, you know, they went back to the drawing board, and maybe they're not going back to the drawing board completely. But my guess is they're refining. They brought up the idea of Winter Soldier quite a bit when they were talking about this because it's a 10-year-old movie this month. So knowing that Winter Soldier was 10 years ago, they're coming back out with this next year. They need to recapture that energy, if you will. And, you know, let them take their time, let them do their work, let them find that greatness in here and put that forward, even if it takes, again, I think it was delayed a whole year. Wasn't it supposed to come out this May or this summer? So absolutely take your time to give us something quality rather than just another, we did it kind of deal. So, let's do that. So check out that image here in the show notes. Moving on, I think it was like a bunch, like 10 plus minutes of Deadpool was shown to the audience, Mike, and I'm jealous of these people who get to see this, of Deadpool and Wolverine. So some of the stuff on site early on at CinemaCon before this, they showed off the movie collector cups showing off a fully masked Hugh Jackman in his Wolverine outfit, and then also Deadpool, which isn't much of a difference compared to, you know, his previous suit. I mean, I know there are changes. He does get a new suit, but yeah, when you look at Deadpool, you're looking for the red mask with the black eye covers, right? And that. So he's got that. They've got that. They filmed a clip specifically for this where they were using some cuss words, and like Deadpool's like, "Oh, you can't believe we got this cameo in this movie," and before he says it, Wolverine or Hugh Jackman like pushes him out of the frame or something like that and stuff like that. So they've been having a lot of fun with this movie, and I'm excited for the fun, the spontaneity, and like the riffing of this film to kind of come out later this summer from that. And then Kevin Feige also said, "Hey, we're gonna do some real crude popcorn vessels for this," and I'm like, "Damn it, that's what I don't want to. I don't want to hear that. That's predictable. Give me something unpredictable."
Yeah, I feel like I've already been seeing. I don't know if it's the dog or the tail wagging the dog, but I've seen lots of popcorn buckets that might be generated by AI, or just maybe all artwork looks like AI now to me of some possible popcorn buckets.
Is it the one where the mouth is on the side?
Yeah.
So that's Boss Logic. That's Boss Logic doing it. So he did. Boss Logic shared that pretty early on this week, with the Deadpool Wolverine one. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do with this, and I'm not excited about it because the idea is we want to make one that's offensive. That is where I'm kind of concerned, right? You can't force virality. In the clip, in things you buy, you can't just say, hey, make it go viral to your marketing team and then it works. So but thankfully we do have the brains. We have Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman's stoicness. He's not really associated with the crudeness, so that contrast is awesome. Sean Levy is really putting his best foot forward for this film. So we have some opportunity here, but hopefully it's not just made in a silo and then they don't tell anyone until it's released. And AMC has literally thousands of them on their shelves for the next 2 years because no one bought them along the way. So I'm excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. We have it coming out July this year, Mike. So we are on the summer's eve for that. But we're gonna wrap up Marvel and shift over to some DC news. We haven't had a lot of DC news, and this week, and I know this might not be Cinemacon, but I know they probably showed it at Cinemacon. Joker 2 trailer dropped, and I almost forgot about this because everything else has really consumed my newsfeed rather than the Joker stuff along the way.
Yeah, that a part of me made me like a little bit concerned. I saw the trailer, I liked it. It looks crazy, it looks fun, it looks like a perfect sequel that came off of the first Joker, but you're right in a sense of like I haven't heard anyone talking about it. Nobody is like making memes about it. I haven't seen any screenshots shared, any like deep dive like, oh, look at these Easter eggs type thing. I'm sure they exist out there, but they're not cracking through into my feeds.
One of the things I would say to that is that this is very much a teaser trailer along the way. There's no story points, right? It's very much a bunch of quick clips and some music, but continue.
Yeah, but this feels like something where do we even need more of this? Like, need more like advertising in a way, right? Like this trailer is enough for me. Yeah, I already plan on seeing it. It just reminded me like, oh yeah, I really liked the first movie. The first movie had a little bit of a reality to it. You were talking about earlier with popcorn buckets. Because it wasn't out yet. Everyone thought it was going to be the fall of society. Everyone was going to go see the Joker movie and then they're going to go out into the streets and like vandalize cars or something. And then really everyone came out of the theater going like, oh, we need better mental health care in this country. So it seems like this is just mental health care part 2. Please pass some sort of a budget for this.
With that, it seems like in this teaser, Harley Quinn is a patient at the hospital rather than a doctor, like her normal origin story is, where she's a psychiatrist, Harleen Quinzel, who works with the Joker. It seems like she's actually a patient there at the hospital, right? So, which is a little different. And you obviously, we've talked about, is this a musical? Is it a not? It's a jukebox musical with a bunch of popular songs. There is a very popular song playing, like I guess an a cappella version or a lighter version, if you will, over this trailer. But my concern is, Mike, when I said Harley Quinn's a patient there, played by Lady Gaga, who's a musician, is it a fake out? Is Joker 2 in his head the whole movie rather than actually being things that happen? Because if you remember the first one, there's a fake out scene with from Deadpool 2, Zazie Beetz, who is like his love interest, and he fancies that she feels the same, but she doesn't. Like, he breaks into her apartment and you come to find out it's all in his head. So like, is she a fake out? Is like he sees her and then he creates a story in his head?
Because the trailer is really organized in that way, because we see shots of like Harley Quinn and Joker dancing out in the city streets, and then it cuts to them dancing in like an insane asylum ward, So yeah, this could just be one big like giant kind of like prank on everyone of just like, oh, you think you're about to go see like a movie where Joker escapes from prison and goes out and does more Joker stuff. It's like, oh no, he's just having all of this in his head. I mean, that would be like a kind of an interesting structure to the movie if maybe that's like the first act. It's just all in his head, and then they actually do break out, and then the audience is not entirely sure, wait, are they out? Are they still in there? And then maybe even Joker doesn't even realize he's out in the real world.
To me, my mind went to that Leonardo DiCaprio movie where he's at the insane asylum and he thinks he's a detective there. I had the name and I lost it. Someone's probably yelling at me. I'm gonna get some text tomorrow morning about the
Oh,
name
are
of
you
this
talking
movie.
about Shutter?
Shutter Island.
It's like Shutter Island
Yeah.
meets that awful Zack Snyder movie that he wrote and directed. What was it called?
Sucker Punch.
Which one? Yeah, Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. Because Sucker Punch was very heavily on the music, but I think the music seems to be a heavy important thing. So I think it will have those musical elements, but I think maybe it's a mixture of real life things and fantasy at the same time, right? Like maybe it's not all in his head, maybe it's not all real, but like maybe it's a mix of both of them, or it even could be Joker too, being like maybe the viewpoint isn't from Arthur Fleck's point of view, maybe it's from Harley Quinn's point of view. The movie is instead of his, so we could be surprised. It did also watching this made me realize I've not watched the first Joker since I watched it in theaters. Like that movie is emotionally draining through and through, and you've got to really be. Probably walk out in the daylight afterwards after watching that, because you're not going to want to go to bed happy after watching that movie. So I might need to cue that one back up and take a look. Is that on Amazon? Probably not. It could be. You mentioned off air in our personal text, literally David Zaslav will license any movie to any streamer right now. Was it the Batman is on Tubi? I think you showed me.
Yeah, the Batman, the Suicide Squad is on there. I think I saw Green Lantern on there. It seems like they don't care. They're like, we don't need to worry about exclusives. If Tubi wants to buy it, I want the money.
Yeah, we need the money real bad. I'm gonna put Joker in Just Watch. We like to go Netflix, Max on Prime, and Netflix with ads. So you can watch it if you have Netflix or Max right now. So it seems like it's part of that streaming service over there. Moving on, Superman. James Gunn is not at this convention, but he did send in a video, and he was able to show off the logo of Superman, which we've kind of seen half-heartedly covered in snow. Someone took it and enhanced it here for this image we're looking at. It's very much a slash across the chest rather than an S at the end of the day, if you will. But looks fine. I've got no qualms here, Mike. As a designer, do you feel strongly about this?
I don't really have any strong opinions about it. I mean, once you have so many incarnations of the character kind of rebooted, you got to just start from a new direction. Well, there'll be within our lifetimes, there'll be another incarnation of Superman on the big screen where they go back to like the original logo, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, what a throwback!" Curse of S,
yeah. And this comes from the comic books again. I think from the Kingdom Come logo, so nothing that's original at the end of the day over there when they're taking comic books and putting them into live action. So that's nothing new here. But the other part of notes, the same company who created the Dune popcorn bucket, which I think is working for Warner Brothers, is working on merch for this film. So I again, cautiously, I love my popcorn vessels. I need to start reining that in because I can't buy them all. I only buy the cool ones. So the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Chris, it sounds like they're all about to be really, really cool. So you better buy another house.
I'm gonna have to get another room. Here are my sex dungeon popcorn vessels because they're all raunchy and crude. So I mean that's cool. I mean, when I was thinking about what Superman merch, I guess they'd probably make his like maybe either the ice fortress would be the vessel, right? You lift up the ice crystals and you're opening your vessel, and it probably lights up, or maybe is it in the shape of his crest, like just a diamond shaped thing that's kind of extruded so that it holds popcorn. What Superman popcorn bucket would you give him, Mike, if you could?
I just love that this one just random manufacturing company has made a whole name for itself by just making something that looks looks naughty and probably not even by their choice. They probably just like threw out a couple ideas for designs. Warner Brothers just like, yeah, let's make one of the Worm. And then they made it, and now all of a sudden they're getting all of these inquiries to make more popcorn buckets. It's just like, we just mold plastic. There's nothing special going on here.
What's even crazy is they probably made the cheapest one, because the bottom of that bucket is just a metal tin that you mentioned at the top of the show, and this sits on the metal tin like the Worm thing does. So it's not even like a custom mold, or the top, like the bottom's just a regular popcorn bucket. So I hope they make something cool. Again, I have like I think it was maybe one of the cups from the Flash, because I thought maybe it was cheap. I don't remember. I didn't buy something expensive, but I need to work on getting those. But if you guys have any good ideas for the Superman popcorn vessels, let us know. We are here to hear your ideas. If you have a drawing, bonus points along the way. This was I don't think it was Cinemacon. I think it might have been social media, Mike, but I'm including it in here because Peacemaker season 2 officially started filming this week. That's why we talked about John Cena at the top of the show. And there's a photo from James Gunn because obviously he's not directing Superman, right? He's got to go do Peacemaker. But here's a photo of the back of the shiny helmet of Peacemaker taken by James Gunn, and he's confirmed that he is at least directing season 1 of the series coming back. So.
Yeah, episode 1, I think is what you meant.
Yeah,
to say,
episode 1. Sorry, episode 1 of season 2. Sorry. Oops.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. He's just kind of getting it up the snuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about season 1 of Peacemaker, kind of hoping that maybe hoping that there was maybe a little bit less of Gunn in it. Like it seems like he's getting a little too self-indulgent, kind of like a Taika Waititi type of move. And like we love the creativity, but like maybe dial it back just a little bit, less indulgent.
More heads are better than one, right? Like that's what we always say in all
Yes.
this stuff. Like all the great Marvel stuff was 2 directors and 2 writers. Like right, like literally a team of 4 did all the great stuff over there. So, not saying that he can't do it, but I also. Him directing at least the first episode, I did see that there's like a break in filming on regular on Superman, and actor David Corenswet was like doing some commercials down in Mexico or something like that. And someone thought he met who posted was like, oh, I met Henry Cavill because apparently he looks so much like Henry Cavill now with all the Superman muscles and haircut. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, Peacemaker season 2, this is great. This is good news. This is a continuing part of the DCEU that will move forward that I am happy we get, right? That was a really fun time on the first season. So and everyone wants to know what song and intro dance will the show have for season 2.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll keep our fingers crossed as that probably comes out probably best case next year. Probably about a year from now. Last Warner Brothers bit here I have is for Lord of the Rings. If you don't remember, they have rights to some of that, I'm pretty sure. And they're doing an anime called War of the Rohirrim. And it confirms that it is coming out later this year. They didn't have anything, I think, other than this image, right, that I had shared here. This is old image. I don't even think this came out of the, Cinemacon. But for people who don't know, War of the Rohirrim is an anime movie set in the Lord of the Rings universe, the historical before any of the actual books kind of going on. So anime is big right now, Mike. I mean, I can't knock it. It's everywhere. Everyone's doing an anime thing. So I guess Lord of the Rings, it was his only time before they got one.
Yeah, it seems like I wouldn't be surprised if he told me that this was also going to be released on Netflix, because Netflix seems to be the home of anime adaptations of any random thing that makes money. So not trying to be harsh, but I probably won't be watching this unless it breaks through the zeitgeist and gets so popular that, becomes a must watch. But I feel like this is just going to fall down the rabbit hole of like, there was like anime adaptation of like, there's like a Blade Runner thing that people liked. I never watched. There's tons of like Godzilla stuff out there. I'm just not watching it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I go to the theater to watch this, I guess is my thing. I'll watch it, but I don't need to go to the theater to watch it at the end of the day. This is something I feel I'd be very comfortable watching it at home for that. So hopefully we can see some more of this stuff to see it later. Again, this is not it's not a retelling of anything in the Lord of the Rings books. So that's a plus. It'll be new stuff. But it is wild because Amazon does have the other Lord of the Rings license. And that's why they're doing the prequel show, right? The Rings of Power. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So absolutely all over the place with if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you're back for more here. Shifting into Paramount stuff, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is obviously being filmed. We've talked about this before. It's confirmed that Shadow the Hedgehog will be the villain. There's some posters of a Shadow the Hedgehog shadow across some big cities on some posters, but also they did confirm in a clip Jim Carrey is returning, but he will be carb obsessed Dr. Robotnik, meaning he is taking on his Eggman look that we know him from the video games throughout this.
All right. That could be kind of fun.
Yeah. I think I don't know if the clip was cut for it or something like. I think the clip might have been cut for the show, where he does mention that he was, looking a little larger and that he's just been eating a lot of carbs lately. And I'm like, well, that's pretty that's pretty on the nose. That's pretty good. At least they're not like, they didn't just give him a fat suit and say explain it next time out of nowhere. So, I'm excited for more of that. And then also, it's not in here, but for those who are fans of this, I believe it's next month, or end of April, we are gonna get Knuckles, the TV show on Paramount Plus. So those fans of that,
yeah, that's right.
we'll be getting more and more Sonic throughout the coming months. Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Mike. I don't know if you've caught this on Apple TV Plus yet, but a second season has been announced for the show. So they are working on that. I'm a big fan. First season, it has no weight over Godzilla, Kong, the New Empire movie that just came out. Like there's no real connection there. They made sure like you don't have to watch the TV show to understand the movie, and vice versa. So that's pretty exciting. But I'm excited for more of this show coming down the pipeline from Apple TV. Is it you?
Yeah, it makes me.
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious. What is the long-term strategy for Godzilla here in the United States? It seems like Japan just kind of makes whatever whenever. They seem to be maybe less obsessed with turning something into like a consistent, ongoing franchise, and it's just like, oh, let's just make cool Godzilla stuff every once in a while.
No. If you, there are probably 50 Godzilla films in Japan, and they go through eras of studios.
But are they? Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is it a consistent, connected universe with interconnected characters?
So
really?
Yeah. So there are three eras of Godzilla. Right now we are not in one. Right now they do not have one. Godzilla -1 is a standalone, and Shin Godzilla was.
Well, those were actually the two that I was thinking of. Like the two most recent kind of like critically acclaimed ones don't really have ties, or it's not like I've heard of a Shin Godzilla 2 or a Godzilla -2, you know.
Right. And that's fine. But before those two, all they were franchises. They put out a Godzilla movie every year for like 15 years, take a break, and then do another like 10. Because they would do like, they have these I don't know if it's a studio or the director. I don't know how they name it. Like, it's like the Shoto era, and another one they would just do this Godzilla versus all these different enemies. And kind of like the American movies, they would start kind of serious, and then they would get kind of, you know, more fantastical, because like you can't keep it serious the whole time. But it's very much the opposite of the new two, the Shin Godzilla and the Godzilla -1. But beforehand, they were very much a 10 movie franchise before they even, you know, took a break on it.
I was about to say, could an American audience withstand this much onslaught of Godzilla universe? But then I think, it's probably the same people that are going to the Fast and Furious movies that'll just go see what else Godzilla and King Kong will do on the big screen.
I didn't go see any Fast and Furious movies, but I will watch Godzilla versus Kong. So especially on Apple TV Plus here, I think it's great. And you brought this up in another chat earlier this week. Is Apple TV Plus is like sci-fi central on TV shows, right? Like they are known for all their sci-fi content. Was that you who brought that up this week?
No, but I kind of believe it. They have the old kind of like executive that used to run HBO over at Apple Plus right now. So it's kind of like the home for just more thought-provoking content. Yeah. This is a long way of saying like, what's the end game for Godzilla and King Kong? You know, like, if the Apple Plus TV show takes off, you know, it could have like 5-6 seasons. Does that end up outliving any sort of like mainline Godzilla King Kong movies that are going on? I'm just kind of curious. Like, it doesn't seem to be very organized.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, it's not one company making this, right? Like, Apple's making this, Warner Brothers is making the other one. Was it Netflix had that Kong Skull Island animated show that nobody watched last year? Everybody, Legendary's licensing this out like it's nobody's business. However, Legacy of Monsters and the movies do have connected pieces, but they don't have to, like, you don't have to be like, I've got to watch these in order. I have to watch. Legacy of Monsters can have more titans than just Godzilla at the end of the day. That's why it's not called Godzilla, like Monarch Legacy of Godzilla or Legacy of Kong. They have other titans in the show and the people there. And it's really, I think it's only going to get maybe 3 seasons, because Apple TV Plus, they're not really doing a lot of 4 or 5 seasons like Netflix is doing. Like, they're going about 3 per before they cancel. So I imagine 2 more seasons, but I think the movie is making enough money. It's doing some box office stuff. It's, you know, popcorn flicks. I think we'll see a little bit more, but we are probably due. When did the first Gareth Edwards Godzilla come out? 2014-ish? So we're like on a 10-year?
That sounds right.
So we're probably on a we're due for a Godzilla reboot in probably 5 years, right? 2029, I would say they're going to be wrapped up with this stuff and be like, all right, we'll either take a break or take a Shin Godzilla approach, if you will, which is a remaster of kinds. But if you're a fan of the Legacy Monsters like I am, I love it. It's on Apple TV Plus. You're going to get season 2 coming up. Moving on, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the wildest news I read all week, Mike. And you got to tell me what you think here, because this is just blowing my mind. A live-action adaptation of the last Ronin graphic novel has been announced. I never thought we'd see a live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles again, Mike, after the 90s work they did with the animatronics, right? And an adaptation of The Last Ronin, which is one of the darkest, most depressing stories in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe. And this will be R-rated and exist in Paramount's horror films division.
Wow. Well, Chris, I hate to break it to you, but we are in a different era of live action turtles. And if you were to Google live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first row of images you're going to see are the Michael Bay executive produced films. So the Turtles of the 90s, you have to add the extra search term of the 90s to get to it. So live action can mean something a little different nowadays.
Yeah.
So
I immediately went right to the animatronic ones, because like that's where I've seen so much of.
And that would be cool. I mean, like, that's the audience that you're going for, right? I feel like if you're doing a rated R TMNT adaptation. But I mean, this is really, really cool. I love this idea. Super rad. I mean, it feels like they know that the audience is there. They can kind of like carve off like this subgenre of going like dark and gritty. You know, Deadpool's coming back to the marketplace. I'm sure it's going to bring in a lot of money. This will just be more and more reinforcement for studios to lean back into rated R. Yeah, exactly. Lean back into your rated R content. I still have the Last Ronin book just sitting on my Amazon wish list, convincing myself I'll buy it one day and read it. So it seems like a really cool story to add. But yeah, the live action sounds rad. You know, if it's rated R, we're gonna have tons of blood. It sounds like dismemberments by a big turtle.
That book is pretty gruesome. So absolutely, it's gonna be.
And also, like that's something that we don't really often get to witness. Is just like they're massive fighters. Like a turtle the size of a human carries a lot of mass and force and momentum. Like imagine that fighting like a human being, or like, you know, a normal ninja. Like that would be super rad and like cathartic to kind of see that action play out on screen. Like I'm almost kind of imagining when Ben Affleck was Batman and you got to see him like go toe to toe with some of those like shrimpy goons occasionally, that times 10. So I'm excited for this. This sounds really cool.
And the fact that they explicitly said it's in the horror film section means they're going to kind of lean into that, right? Like how it is not a happy ending story at the end of the day. Along the way. So I'm excited to see them lean into that. Not necessarily that it's horror, but like gore, body horror, maybe, you know, stuff like that along the way.
Now I'm not going to get too precious. I think we're talking about maybe some other Paramount things here coming up as well. We do know it seems Paramount seems to be actively trying to sell itself. So if that ends up happening, all of these things could be shelved depending by whoever is the new owner. This could just all be a scheme to goose the selling price of like, hey, we have all of this stuff. You got to pay more for us if you want to own us. Who knows? Or maybe nobody wants to buy them and they're just trying to make themselves look more attractive. Like, please, any offers, we'll take them.
Someone mentioned, I thought maybe it was this week, maybe at this convention, the CEO or the president or something was like, I know you probably heard about selling stuff, but we're here to make movies and you know, support cinema. So he's either saying that we're not selling, that was just all rumors, or B, it's not working out for us, so we're here for the long haul, like you just mentioned. So
I mean, that's exactly what somebody would say if they were trying to.
Yeah, someone touched the point on it, but they did announce a lot of stuff. Not only Sonic the Hedgehog, Turtles. We're gonna talk Transformers 1, the movie, the animated CGI animated movie that's coming out later this year. It tells the origin story of how Optimus Prime and Megatron were buddies, and then they were not buddies all of a sudden. So the voice of Chris Hemsworth is Optimus Prime. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the actor's name. It was voicing Megatron. Scarlett Johansson's in here as another character. Like they got some A-list actors to be voice actors in this movie for that. They showed off a little clip of like the logo, but I'm like, that's nothing. Like I don't need a Transformers 1 logo. It's fine. But it's still shooting for a September release. I'm excited to see a trailer for this, Mike. Some I liked Rise of the Beast as it was, but I was disappointed because I really wanted Beast Wars. Like, I really wanted Beast Wars, and they really shafted us on those characters. So hopefully this can give us some good stuff, because as we've talked about in animation, CG animation, whatever, they can do more with the characters, right? We can see a lot more transforming than if they're just doing it in a live action film the whole way. Another Michael Bay franchise getting more life here, if you will, along the way. But on top of all this, I mentioned G.I. Joe at the top of the show, and you're like, why, Chris? Why are you talking G.I. Joe? The actuality of Transformers G.I. Joe crossover film has been announced by Paramount, Mike. The live action one, a sequel to Rise of the Beast, where it ended where they were like, call me if you want to join us, and he gives them a card, and then he walks away into the G.I. Joe locker, or base, if you will, that shows everything. So the Transformers and the Joes will be teaming up in this next movie, Mike.
Wow, so
we've never had a...
It wasn't just a veiled threat.
Yeah, even though we've not had a G.I. Joe origin film in this universe yet, which would be great to have before we jump into this crossover, but you know, Transformers movies, they're several billion-dollar franchise at this point. G.I. Joe really hasn't come back. You know, they tried those two movies, one with The Rock and one with I can't think of the actor, Magic Mike.
Just in anything, does G.I. Joe have any cultural impact outside of like
toys?
Older generations? I mean,
yeah.
I can't even think of like, is there a new animated version of G.I. Joe that's trying to get kids sucked in? I didn't really. G.I. Joes were like a little too before my time. So like, what are they just trying to get like Gen X dollars here? I don't really understand the relevancy of G.I. Joe anymore. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you own it. I guess you got to go ahead and start using it. And, you know, synergizing it with Transformers is probably the best strategic decision.
Yeah, I'm looking at there's an 83 TV series, which is the one that we know, a movie in 87, and a 1989 TV series, and that's about it. So no, really they've just been selling toys, and you know, the big pro-military push of the 70s and 80s is not as prevalent as it is today. So G.I. Joe is not there. I mean, I know they sell a lot of toys. Hasbro still releases a lot of toys for that nostalgia factor, but like, you know, I remember, what was it, the first G.I. Joe movie where they made the suits that let them run fast with Channing Tatum and whatever, and then the second one was a little more, you know, focused on like, you know, actual like military stuff and espionage, which is cool. But like, yeah, like the only thing I can think of when I think of G.I. Joe, Mike, is pork chop sandwiches, because of those voiceovers of the animated show from '83 that are.
That is true. G.I. Joe, to at least our generation, is just really a meme. And I got to imagine to the generation younger than us, they're like, "What is G.I. Joe? I don't understand what you're even talking about."
What does it mean? What is G.I.? What is a G.I. Joe? Why is this even a thing? So absolutely. So maybe they can use us in by using Transformers first, right? The people like, oh, Transformers, I know what those are, and then introduce people to G.I. Joe before they go. You've talked me back around, Mike. You've talked me out of an origin movie because no one would watch it, and then this would be dead immediately. So that is coming. We'll let you know more about this, as Mike called it, threat, as we get closer to its release. Two things in space here. The last one for Paramount is Star Trek. They've announced a prequel movie is officially in, I guess, probably early pre-production for a 2025 release. This will be a prequel set, I think, 40, maybe 50 years before the 2009 Star Trek movie, which is the split of the timelines of the movies, if you remember, the Kelvin timeline movie. So it won't have any of those actors. It'll be set, you know, maybe the history of like how Earth got into Starfleet, I guess, along those ways. I don't know. The great part about this is it'll be directed by Tony Haynes, who has directed episodes of Doctor Who, Black Mirror, and Andor as well. Some of the popular episodes of Andor. So a lot of these Andor I guess production members the past few weeks have been getting really good jobs along the way, based on the work. So
I don't know what you do with Star Trek, in my opinion. I didn't grow up with Star Trek. The closest kind of connection I have to it is probably the J.J. Abrams movies, which I'm sure will send shivers down the spines of like people that grew up with the Next Generation.
That was my first experience of Star Trek. I literally missed all of the Star Trek shows, all of the movies until the 2009 movie myself. So like I have no nostalgia. I have no. We're not precious about this property, as we've talked about before, right? Neither of us are like, oh, Star Trek, we have to protect Star Trek. I'm like, no, do what you want with it.
Yeah, and that's really just been left out on a vine to kind of rot, right? I mean, that when those movies were coming out, that was like Chris Pine at his like heights, right? I mean, he was and kind of still is the one of the Hollywood Chris's, right? So and there was all this talk about like a possible like Tarantino version of the movie.
Yep.
And then that third installment came out like really far after the second one, and people
Yeah.
were kind of confused what they were even supposed to be
Well,
watching. So
the
I
second
don't
one
even
got
know what you
the
do.
second one got panned horribly, right? Even though it's got a great cast, Benedict Cumberbatch, J.J. Abrams couldn't write an original script. Like, he couldn't save a remake of Wrath of Khan to save his life in that situation. And it was so badly panned, they got gun shy. Then they did the third one, had Idris Elba in it. That came back, it made some money, got some good critical reaction, but they've just done nothing with the movies, right, for a while. Now they've been making TV shows, Discovery, and was it Lower Decks, and
I think there's like 5 different Star
Yeah.
Trek shows on Paramount.
and a lot
I
of
don't
those-
know any of them.
but a lot of them are wrapping up, right? So a lot of those have run their 5-season arcs, or they're wrapping these up. Brave New Worlds, is taking off. So like it is like they need to do something with the movies, get them back in the cinema. But is a prequel the answer? Like, why is that always the first thing people jump to, right? Like, why not? You've already proven you can do split timelines. You've got different TV shows going on here. Like they never shied away from taking the next generation or the original cast and putting them in a movie. Like, give us a Star Trek movie that maybe ties all this in together at some point. I don't know. But a prequel to me is not the answer. My first answer to solve a problem of like, what do we do? How do we make Star Trek 4? We go back and make Star Trek 0, Mike, at the beginning.
I do like the idea of maybe looking at the origin of Starfleet maybe a little bit more, because to me, I think that's very interesting. We kind of take it for granted when you get dropped into a Star Trek universe that everything's a utopia and there's like a 3D printer that can make you anything that you want and there's teleportation. Like, you kind of rad to go back into a time before maybe some of that stuff didn't exist or they just started inventing it. What are the ramifications of all of it? That'd be kind of fun.
It is different in that regards. I think you're right. There is a different expectations of the characters in society maybe being opened up to this, but at the same time I'm like, well, if it's already there, we already know it, you don't have to explain it to us, we don't need a reason, just move forward. I think we're gonna get a lot of explanations in this prequel movie of how things work in the universe. So it's fine, they got a good team. Star Trek needs to come back to cinema, so I'm all for it. Lastly, Star Wars news, Mike. Star Tours, one of my favorite rides at Star Wars. Has been my favorite ride for 20 years, if not more, since they put it in there. Do they have Star Tours at California? Please tell me they have Star Tours.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Cool. So there are new updates to Star Tours, including The Mandalorian with Din Djarin and Grogu, from Ahsoka, including Ahsoka, and then Cassian Andor from the Andor show as well. They're putting in little sections of the ride that let you do that on Star Tours now. So you never know which one of those you're going to get.
That ride still holds up.
Yep.
We have the opportunity to go to Disneyland a lot more because we are right next to it. So we get a chance to go. And I routinely can ride Rise of the Resistance, Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, and Star Tours, which is in a totally different part of the park. And honestly, I think Star Tours is my favorite Star Wars ride at the park. Even though it's way less expensive, there's no, trackless moving, super sophisticated car moving around. They just dialed everything in so well. All of the show effects work so good. There's like a physical moving C-3PO in the front of the car.
Yeah.
There's like a video screen in the corner that takes a picture of somebody, and they're the spy. You got to look out for them. The car is just synced perfectly to the video in front of you, and any seat I've ever sat in inside of that, it works. Like the 3D perspective, it all is astonishing. And I get a little motion sickness, just a little bit at the end of it every time, but it's always like totally worth it.
So that's the ride I will walk out of and then walk back in if there's no line. I will literally do this because Star Tours is such a unique thing. There's usually about 3 sections per ride, and you don't know what you're going to get, right? They always mix and match the sections, so it's like a randomized roll of the die anytime you get on Star Tours. So adding these new ones in is going to be great. It's going to really modernize them. I think it's a great selection of characters as well. They did say that Ahsoka and Cassian Andor are played by their respective actors, but Din Djarin is a sound alike, which was disappointing, I heard, because literally he's you could just get him to record it on his phone and put it in there.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're just going to be like processing it through something. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess maybe he was busy making Last of Us 2.
Yeah, that or Fantastic Four casting, whatever it is he's doing. But the last part of this is they could be teasing heir to the Empire parts, because I think maybe it was Ahsoka or the Mandalorian Din Djarin says, like, you know, there's something's brewing, a war brewing or something, and they think it's teasing to the heir to the Empire. Cool. If not, I don't think I need to go ride Star Tours to get a feeling for what that movie's going to be. If it's a little sneak peek, great, but a little line in a Star Wars, right? There's always war brewing in Star Wars. That's why it's called Star Wars, right? There's always war on the horizon. For that. But I love it. Again, I think that's one of those rides you mentioned, it was dialed in. It feels like the original trilogy come to life, right? When you get on a ride. And I think that's just something so perfect about it. So I agree. That's our episode for this week, Mike. Thank you for making time and being. Mike had to make some changes and adjust for me, and I really appreciate that about him. And I will get him back one of these days, I promise. With that, but Mike, if people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you, buddy?
That sounds like a veiled threat. You're gonna get me back.
It's either a promise or a threat. I want you to be scared.
All right, I'll be on my toes. Well, if you wanna find my web comics, you can find them at liferewardsrisk.com or pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or in the video game system with the same name. I think it's Valdan87 on this, because I've been playing a lot of Helldivers too. So if anyone wants to play Helldivers with me, let me know. It's really, really fun. People know about our show, where they can like, subscribe, get more of our stuff, get our clips if they're looking for something specific throughout the week rather than listening to the whole show. Where can they get all these goodies at?
Well, if all else fails and social media ends up being illegal or canceled or deleted, you can always find us at superheroslate.com. That's what's called a domain name, kids. It's a website if you've never heard of it before. Superheroslate.com. This is the best place to find all the avenues we host our show, to get our awesome show notes. If you want to see everything that we talked about this week, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you'd love to listen to fine podcasts. You can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Let us know what your favorite, what's your favorite Star Wars ride? But there's like 3 of them, but I guess you could tell me which one you like. And we love hearing from you. We love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.